They tried to sell my 750-acre ranch out from under me and somehow ended up watching me legally sell every house they built on it for about $580 a piece. Yeah, you heard that right. And the wildest part, I never broke a single law. I just learned theirs better than they did. It all started the morning I found that foreclosure notice nailed to my cattle gate, early light, frost still clinging to the fence wire, cows shifting behind me waiting for feed, and I remember thinking, okay, either somebody made a mistake or somebody's about to make one. The paper looked official, county seal stamped deep enough to feel with your thumb, my ranch listed like some abandoned lot. Big red letters screaming about unpaid emergency infrastructure fees from Ridgeway Bluffs HOA. Problem was, Ridgeway Bluffs sat 2 miles east, a tidy subdivision full of folks who thought mud was a design flaw, not a fact of ranch life. An HOA claiming jurisdiction over land my family's held since 1898. That wasn't just wrong, that was deliberate. And once you've spent 20 years working land surveys like I had, you recognize deliberate fast. Their boundary map looked convincing if you didn't know better, but the lines were stretched just enough. Zoning quietly relabeled my western pasture shaded inside their district like somebody had colored it in after the fact. Not sloppy calculated. By noon, their president, Mara Kensington, rolled up in a spotless SUV that had never seen a dirt road in its life, heels clicking across gravel like she expected it to apologize for existing. She talked about community standards, had some guy snapping photos of my hay bales, irrigation pumps, even my rooster crowing. Apparently livestock noise offended their comfort thresholds. I told her she was trespassing. She told me I'd soon be compliant. That smile of hers, smug and rehearsed, told me they already thought they'd won. Then the notices started piling in, fines, violations, threats, and the county assessor reclassified my ranch residential transitional land, which magically put it under HOA oversight. Sheriff Keller admitted quietly something smelled off, but said, until a judge ruled otherwise, his hands were tied. 48 hours later, my ranch sold at foreclosure auction to exactly one bidder. Mara's husband, Evan, $42,000 for land worth over $6 million. No competition, no fuss, just a gavel drop that sounded louder than it should have. I didn't yell, didn't threaten. Out here, emotions don't fix paperwork. But when I reviewed the foreclosure file later in the bunkhouse, something jumped out, a forged survey signature from a surveyor who'd been dead 3 years. That was the twist nobody expected, including them. I wasn't just a rancher. I was a former land survey engineer. Lines, margins, easements, those were my native language. And suddenly the whole scam lit up like a crime scene under UV light. Attorney Elizabeth Hart, smartest land lawyer in 3 counties, confirmed it fast. The HOA county assessor and shell companies tied to Evan had been reclassifying ranch land, slapping bogus fines on owners, forcing foreclosures, then scooping properties cheap to flip to developers. My ranch wasn't special. It was just next. That realization hit harder than losing the land itself because it meant other families probably lost theirs quietly. Here's where life taught me something I didn't appreciate until then. Greed almost always leaves fingerprints, especially when people think nobody understands the system. Those forged maps. They forgot to include century-old grazing easements. My family still held rights older than zoning law, older than HO, as older than most county records. Legally, that meant the subdivision they built partly depended on land use rights I still controlled. They stole the ranch, but they built their houses on my easements. Elizabeth found a statute allowing formation of an agricultural reserve district over active historic easements. Long shot, narrow path, but real. We filed, quietly built evidence, carefully followed the money trail while state investigators watched. 2 tense days later, the petition was approved, and suddenly the HOA that stole my ranch fell under the authority of the agricultural district tied to those original easements, tied to me. Watching Mara's face when state officers started inspecting her subdivision was something I won't forget. Not joy exactly, more like balance returning. Soon, warrants followed, forged documents, fraud, conspiracy. Sheriff Keller, who'd looked helpless before, was finally free to act. Seeing those black SUVs roll in, badges flashing, was quieter than you'd think. No sirens, just inevitability. Karma rarely needs theatrics. Then came the move that shocked everyone: eminent domain under the agricultural district. Every house built on my easements legally eligible for acquisition. Residents panicked, understandably, until Elizabeth and I offered leases so innocent homeowners could stay for $1 a year if they wanted. My fight wasn't with them. It was with the people who lied to them. And yes, legally those houses were valued as agricultural parcels about $580 each. Same law they twisted against me applied correctly this time. Funny how justice sometimes sounds like an echo. Court sentencing wrapped it up weeks later. Mara, 5 years. Evan, 3+ asset forfeiture. The assessor banned from public service. Developers investigated restitution funds, created ranchers compensated. The county even passed a new land integrity ordinance to prevent this kind of fraud again. My ranch returned through clean title transfer, no loopholes, just rightful ownership restored. Standing on that ridge, after everything settled, cattle moving along trails older than the subdivision that tried to erase them. I had one of those quiet realizations. Life sneaks up on you with, laws themselves aren't good or bad, they're tools. In honest hands, they protect people. In greedy hands, they become weapons. The difference often comes down to who understands them better and who refuses to back down when something feels wrong. These days, the ranch isn't just cattle. Elizabeth and I started a land rights foundation helping folks targeted by predatory HOAs or shady developers. Turns out what happened to me wasn't rare, just rarely fought successfully. Helping others hold on to their land feels better than any courtroom victory ever did. And yeah, I'll admit it. There was a certain satisfaction selling every house they built on my land, legally watching the same system they abused hold them accountable. Not revenge, balance, big difference. So here's the thing. I keep wondering, where's the line between defending what's yours and going too far? If someone uses the law to cheat you, is it justice to beat them at their own game? Or does that risk becoming what you fought against? I'd honestly like to hear your take. Drop your opinion. Tell me if you think what I did was fair, too harsh, or exactly right. And if you've ever faced something similar with property HOA drama or legal pressure, share that story too. Conversations like this help more people than you'd think.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.